Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is December 24th, 2025. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to stage the full-scale Russian armed forces-based attack, bombing, or invasion of multiple countries in Europe on the date of December 26th of 2025. So what's imperative to note first off is that the number 26 equates to the letter Z, which is an acronym for Zionism, which is the political motivation behind this impending attack designed to trigger World War III. In short, CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland, the first Jewish state, is exposed. And so they plan on essentially starting World War III in order to keep this news from getting out to the rest of the world. And the notion that the CIA plans to start World War III on the date of the 26th is corroborated by the fact that back on June 2nd of 2013, they released a movie entitled World War Z. Not only does this feature the 26th letter Z, but the date of June 2nd on which the movie came out, 62 or 26, also equates to the letter Z. This is what's called reflective numerology. And in order to sell the notion that Russia is going to attack on the 26th, the CIA staged a Russian propaganda campaign at the onset of the Russo-Ukrainian War, which commenced back on February 24th of 2022, where the Z symbol was featured on athletes, buildings, flags, patches, military patches, and vehicles across Russia and the Ukrainian front. And in order to also sell the notion that Russia is planning a massive attack on the 26th, or Z numerology, the CIA staged Zapad 21 war game military exercise in Belarus back on September 10th through the 15th, featuring 200,000 soldiers of the Russian armed forces. And then, most recently, the CIA staged Zapad 25 on September 12th through the 16th of 2025, featuring 150,000 Russian armed forces in Belarus. And during this exercise, they engaged in what is called CBRN, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear-related military exercises. Firstly, Zapad means west in German, in Russian. And Z, the Z, you could consonantly, it's ZPD, or Z, you could say Z Pi Day. So basically, pi is basically 3.14, which is obviously found in the numerology of the CIA with the 16-point star. And then, so it's Z Pi Day. So it's basically the day when something comes to conclusion. And considering that it was in fact a CBRN related military war game exercise, we can expect that to be featured in this upcoming attack on the date of December 26th of 2025. So exactly what type of attack the CIA plans to stage on the date of Friday, December 26th of 2025, obviously not known. But if you follow the news, you have been probably accosted with a term called Dark Fleet. They have used this term many times in respect to Russian tankers. But what I believe it is what they're calling the Dark Fleet is a fleet of aircraft that is going to drop up to 250,000 Ukrainian paratroopers behind NATO lines. So this could be the Israeli Air Force, this could be the British Air Force, but some Air Force, probably not Ukraine because they don't have the ability to fly behind NATO lines. So it's either going to be stealth Israeli aircraft or it's going to be NATO aircraft with a pass, with permission to fly behind NATO lines. And so I believe that the unprecedented amount of Ukrainians that are allegedly dying in Russia over the last 4 years. I believe those numbers are highly inflated, and I believe that many of those, if not most of those, are actually being trained for this impending assault on Europe. So basically, the CIA in Switzerland has tried to bait Russia into attacking Europe. But Putin, which is one of the reasons they've been desperately trying to remove her from power, is that Putin wants to maintain good relations with Europe and the United States, which is evident by the ongoing peace negotiations. However, the CIA in Switzerland has thus far been unable to bait Russia into an attack on Europe, despite moving the borders, the NATO borders towards Russia up to 5 times, and having Sweden and other states join NATO. So it appears that the CIA has developed this heinous plot that's likely been 4 years in the making, whereby they are taking thousands, hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian troops, and they have brandished them with Russian outfits, Russian uniforms, and they have been teaching them how to paratroop. And they are going to be paratrooping in behind the NATO lines in Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Moldova, Romania, and Bulgaria. And this is designed to obviously to trigger an immediate World War III. What these troops don't know from Ukraine is that they will likely be double-crossed. So once the dark fleet of planes, military transport planes, dump hundreds of thousands of because most people can't tell the difference between a Ukrainian and a Russian. If you hear them speak, if you were native to that area, you might be able to tell the dialectic difference, but for me and millions of other people, most other people around the world, nobody can tell the difference. So if a NATO troop, if a German or an American or a Pole kills a Ukrainian or Russian, they can't tell the difference. So they plan to drop up to 200,000 Ukrainian paratroopers behind enemy lines in the aforementioned countries, and then they plan to double-cross those by spraying blister agents, blood agents, choking agents, or nerve agents on top of them. And so this will create, obviously, a clusterfuck of absolute madness and chaos. People are going to be dying everywhere, and then all these Russian troops are going to be, or Ukrainian troops in Russian uniforms are going to be killing people, and it's going to be absolute madness. Now, they might spare those troops, and they might spray further inland in the countries. I'm not sure, but a 1-2 punch is expected. And obviously, this impending attack is designed to sabotage the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian peace negotiations, which are currently transpiring in Miami, Florida. Lastly, in what appears to be a blood sacrifice offered up to this impending paratrooper Ukrainian, false flag paratrooper Ukrainian attack on Europe, back on December 9th, the CIA assassinated British Armed Forces paratrooper Lance Corporal George Hooley. And this is likely the British agent or operative that was training Ukrainians for this attack. And he was killed in Ukraine. So you're asking yourself, why is a British Lance Corporal paratrooper in Ukraine? Because they're getting ready to exercise possibly the largest false flag ever. Because this is a false flag of false flags. This is literally the falsest flag possibly ever committed, because you're literally taking over the identity. Because a false flag used to be that a ship would put up a false flag, and then that ship would pretend to be like the USS Maine, which was blown up in Havana Harbor, was flying a Cuban flag before it was blown up. So that's taking on the flag of the enemy. Ukraine is literally going to be taking on the identity of Russia in order to trigger World War III. And because Ukrainians hate Russia with such animosity and such vitriol, I believe that these troops are stupid enough and dumb enough and patriotic enough to think that participating in this attack is somehow going to win them their independence from Russia or whatever their political goals are. Not knowing, obviously, that it's a double cross, obviously, and that they're going to get completely bulldozed in the process. So exactly when this attack is going to happen, obviously not known on the date of December 26th, but it will likely happen in the AM hour, probably just prior to dawn, which would be likely on Christmas night in the United States, which is going to be during the live broadcast of the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs football game, and the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Denver Nuggets basketball game. So these are going to be live broadcasts in the United States on Christmas Day, and it's likely during these events that they will come in with breaking news that Russia has attacked Europe. When in reality, it's likely that this plan, which has likely been since the war started in February, 46 months in the making, and it's likely going to be the largest false flag ever committed, and it's likely going to be staged. It's likely going to be a joint operation between Israel, the UK, and Ukraine, basically to sucker NATO and Russia into World War III. Obviously, this benefits Israel the most, because we have no business fighting with Russia over anything, so obviously this is going to trigger World War III and likely trigger the mutually assured destruction scenario. So in the aftermath of this, it's highly likely that NATO will immediately attack Russia, and then in turn Russia will nuke Europe, and then America will nuke Russia, something to that effect. And so this is all going to go down on the day of December 26th, which is World War Z. Z is for Zionism, and that's what's the most important thing to remember here. Is this is Switzerland. So this is how we know that Switzerland is in charge. Switzerland plays every country off against each other, and they've been doing so since their inception, and I believe something like 1319 is when they became after the so-called fall of the Roman Empire, or the fall of the Roman Empire. Switzerland became the dominant force on the planet. That is why they control all world banking. That's why the United Nations is there, the Olympics Committee, the World Health Organization, the Red Cross. Every single agency in the world that matters is in Switzerland, and they run the show. That's why they're the only neutral countries, because they are in fact in everybody's business. And so this is how we know is that Switzerland is in a situation where they essentially have to start World War III to keep this news that they are in fact home to the CIA from getting out. And so they are in a desperate situation, and they evidently plan on using multiple countries in this equation for this attack on the date of December 26th. And they have made movies. So, they made a movie about World War Z. Then they had a propaganda campaign in Russia with the Z on all the vehicles and the athletes and everything like that. And so they have been constantly gearing up for this huge attack, which, like I said, is likely 46 months in the making. And that's likely where most of this hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine actually went to, is actually buying all these 250,000 Ukrainian paratroopers, brand new paratrooper outfits, weapons. I don't think parachutes are cheap, and then they also probably had to buy the transport planes. I'm not sure what type of planes paratroopers fly out of. Offhand, I would guess it would be a C-130 or something to that effect, but they have likely a massive amount of planes with paratroopers ready as we speak. They're getting ready for this this breaking dawn scenario, whereby they start World War III by basically invading through hundreds of thousands of paratroopers flying in behind NATO lines. and then these Ukrainian troops would obviously attack NATO troops, and then they would be in Russian uniform. And then obviously World War III would likely ensue. So obviously, if the CIA stages any sort of Russian offensive or false flag on the date of December 26 of 2025, obviously know that Switzerland, who has K Bono, who benefits Switzerland, Switzerland and Israel, the first Jewish state and the second Jewish state, they're going to benefit from this war, and they have a Zionist in Ukraine named Zelensky, who is their puppet there, and this is going to commence on the date of the 26th. And so obviously if that happens, I would kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Peace.